public or private broadcasts, I'm not sure, but I certainly hope to do some there soon. 1987 Whitesnake lineup change. Please share any stories or details that you have. Well, Brett, I'll give you a Reader's Digest version of it here, but I will tell you that if you want a lot of detail on this, if you purchase the reissue, the 30th anniversary of Whitesnake's 87, there's quite a bit written in the booklet by David Coverdale about what went on at that time. And I'm assuming what Brett is referring to is what is fairly well known among rock fans, and that is that the lineup that made the 1987 Whitesnake album was Still the Night, Is This Love, Here I Go Again, all of that stuff, Crying in the Rain. The lineup that recorded it is completely different than the lineup that toured behind it and appeared in the videos. And except for, of course, David Coverdale. So the artists that actually recorded that album were John Sykes, who played all the guitars, except for apparently the solo on Here I Go Again, which is Adrian Vandenberg, Neil Murray on bass, and Ainsley Dunbar on drums. That's who recorded almost all of that 87 record that you hear and you heard in the videos and everything else. Then when the videos hit, the band that was assembled for the videos and the tour consisted of Adrian Vandenberg, Vivian Campbell, Rudy Sarzo, Tommy Aldridge. None of them played on any of those songs, except for the one solo done by Adrian. And the circumstances around it are very different depending upon who you ask. David Coverdale felt at that time he was having some issues with his vocal cords, and he felt that from his view, and according to what I read in this book, that he felt that Sykes was trying to take over the band and caused a mutiny and all this stuff. The counter to that is, that Sykes will tell you is that, Coverdale felt threatened by him. He had become very popular, good-looking guy, becoming a guitar hero and all of that. You got to remember this is 32 years ago now, so all of these guys could have very well changed. But I can tell you there is still a great degree of animosity from John Sykes' end about how he was treated at that time, and the fact that most people do not even acknowledge in the mainstream that he is actually the guy that co-wrote and played on that record. To David's credit, he is onward and upward with everyone, and now is an older guy and is completely cool with everybody and would love to mend every bridge with everyone, including Sykes, although John has not been open to doing that. So that's all I can tell you. They have differing views on what was going on. A lot of it had to do with apparently ego and control and whatever politics were going on at the time. But make no mistake, Whitesnake has been from day one and always will be 100% owned and controlled by David Coverdale. I don't say that from a dictatorship sort of standpoint, but that's just the way it is. It's his band. It existed long before the 87 record as well. The one thing I'll say, I was and still am such a huge Sykes fan that when that change was made, I was really bummed and was not, with all respect to Adrian Vandenberg and Vivian Campbell, I was not nearly as excited about seeing that record played live with those guys. And having heard, and I never did, by the way, but having heard some of the recordings that have been released since from that tour with those guys, they are both great guitar players. I would never take anything away from them in a minute, but I don't think they were even close to covering those solos on the 87 record on the live stage the way they were recorded. And those are big shoes to fill. So great players, had the look, made it all work, but were they absolutely right for that time for that band? Probably not. And they were thrown together pretty quickly because I'm pretty sure I had read that they never even rehearsed or played live before they showed up in those videos. They were literally hired to lip sync and mime the parts in the videos for Still of the Night and all that. And Sykes is finally, apparently about to release a record this year. And I just saw him at NAMM. We'll see if indeed that actually does happen. I, like many fans, hoping that it does, but you know, we've kind of heard this before, so fingers crossed. This one comes from John, and he is in Orlando, and he writes, a few questions, feel free to answer, and or one or all on a band like the Strut.
Half observation. I recently picked up the Coverdale Page record, and it is fantastic. And we all want to hear Led Zeppelin or something that sounds like Led Zeppelin so bad, with, you know, the Greta Van Fleet hype, and there's constant rumors about a Zeppelin reunion. I was just wondering, how come this thing almost seems like this lost gem in time that's been there for 25 years, but you never really hear anything about it? Doesn't get any radio play on classic rock radio or anything.
That's a good question, Sean. I mean, are you younger? Were you not around when it first came out?
I'm 34. I'm a big Zeppelin fan, and I like Whitesnake as well. And it seems like even with me, I put off buying it for a long time, even though I knew about it. And then finally, I picked it up and threw it in the player, and I was blown away by it, honestly.
Yeah, I think, Sean, the problem is when that record came out, it was looked at as a bit of a reaction to the fact that Page couldn't get Plant to want to do Zeppelin again. And a lot of people have always thought and accused Coverdale of being very Plant-like, and that it was almost like a little shot at Plant, who apparently didn't like or doesn't like, or at the time didn't like Coverdale for whatever reason. So it was kind of like Page going and getting a guy like, okay, I'm going to get the guy that you think just does your act, and I'm going to do a band with him. I don't necessarily think that was the case or the idea behind it. And I do agree with you, like Pride and Joy is a killer song on that record. I mean, Denny Carmassi plays drums on it. What a badass drummer he is. So I do like a lot of it, Sean. And I think that it was just kind of looked at, and thank you for the call, it was looked at as like a bit of an anomaly. It was only one record. There was a tour, but it didn't have really any legs. And I think it's even if you think about it, The Firm, who did more than one record, which was a Jimmy Page band with Paul Rodgers, that's not really out there much in classic rock land anymore either. Maybe you hear Radioactive here and there, but not much. So really, there isn't a lot that Jimmy Page did post Zeppelin that really is in any sort of regular rotations as far as classic rock music. For a guy as revered as Page, there are these things that he's done, whether it's the Outrider soundtrack or his own records or the live things with the Black Crowes or whatever. You just don't hear it all the time. You would think it's Jimmy Page, it's going to be part of the regular rotation of classic rockland, but it's really not. You're right in that it's not. I think because Zeppelin cast such a huge shadow that they're always going to revert to Zeppelin. But there is good stuff on the Coverdale Page record, and the last thing I'll say about that record is not the most recent time I had David on, but the previous interview I did here on Volume with David Coverdale. I talked to him about Coverdale Page, and I said to him, he said to me, in that interview, I believe he said there were a couple other tracks that didn't make the record, and that he would be up for seeing the record come out in a deluxe edition for its 30th anniversary or 25th anniversary, maybe remixing some stuff on it, and that he is still in touch with Jimmy Page, because I made the case that Jimmy Page clearly wants to do music. We keep hearing he's going to do music again. Beyond being the minder of the Zeppelin catalog, every time one of those reissues come out and he does press, And he's asked about it. Yes, I have music. Yes, I'm going to do a record. Yes, I'm going to put something together. Guess I'm going to go on the road. It never happens. So why not, whether it be Coverdale or Paul Rogers or somebody who's around the same age that he's worked with before and obviously can get along with, why not call up one of those guys? Why not do a record like the first solo record Slash did, where there was a different singer on every track? Who wouldn't sign tomorrow to sing on a song with Jimmy Page? There's a lot that he could do right now, but I don't get the sense, I get the sense that a lot of these guys, when they reach the age that he's at, it's nice to talk about.